Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, K9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you every Tuesday at this time. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Doing pretty well. Got a lot going on again, and it seems like every week we add more sports, and we're about to add college basketball to the mix as well.
Yeah, well, that's what this season does as we go into October and go into the busy time. But I think, Pat, we're going to start with a little U of A football and that breakthrough win. They've been so close, 2 overtime road losses, and they get that win, and they do so in a big, convincing way, a 44-6 victory at Washington State. They give up the early touchdown and then play perfect football from there as we look at Noah Fifita, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week for the second straight week.
Yeah, I think we all thought that maybe they were just this close, and this might have been the game, the Washington State game, where they finally get the W and maybe get over that hump. But I don't think any of us saw this, kind of beat down that they gave to Washington State coming, because Washington State have been so good this year. I think they are a good football team. I think the Wildcats just caught them flat, and they made them pay. When you have a team like Arizona that's playing very good football and just hungry for a win, this is the kind of thing that can happen occasionally. But, it took me by surprise at how lopsided this game turned out to be.
The message going into the game by Teddy Bruschi, who spoke to the team, was close doesn't count. Time for some wins. Well, they responded, and it wasn't close. It was the big win. And I'll tell you what, I don't think 7 wins is, to me, that's back in the picture, Pat, because you got Colorado and ASU, which are very beatable. And even though they're both on the road, those are very winnable games. And then you got the 3 at home with the tougher teams, the UCLA, the Oregon State, and Utah.
Yeah.
You knock off one of those 2, you get the 2 road wins. That gets you to 7. That's still on the table. I think 6 to be safe. I think 7 is still doable for this team.
I would like to think you're right. I picked 6 wins. I think that's definitely doable now. I think both of us a few weeks ago were a little bit iffy on our preseason prognostications, but I do think that this team is deserving of a lot of people's attention nationally, and I think wins, a few more wins, gets them into a bowl game. Obviously, first and foremost, if they get to 7 wins like you predicted, Jason, then I think they really will get the attention of a lot of people. It would be nice to knock off not just a Washington State, but knock off an Oregon State or a UCLA or even a Utah that's back climbing up the polls again. That would really get people's attention. But it's not necessarily just about attention nationally, Jason. It's just about making sure this program is going in the right direction. And a few weeks ago, we weren't sure that this was going to be another step in the right direction. We thought maybe that they hadn't maybe lived up to what we thought they would be. Now they have. They proved us a bit wrong. And I think part of it, we're showing Noah Fifita, and that's a great story, and we'll talk much more about that. But I think the defense is really the story that doesn't get talked about enough. We tend to focus on quarterbacks and running backs and the terrific wide receiving core. That defense, you mentioned, Jason, they gave up that first touchdown too easily, but then they made adjustments. And Washington State, they crossed the 50 2 more times, but didn't even threaten to score. And this defense now ranks 32nd in total defense in the country.
Wow.
Last year, they
fewer than 100 yards rushing, giving up a game.
Yeah. Last year, so they're 32 right now in defense in the country. Last year, they ranked 126.
Yeah.
Think about that.
They have not had players like Bill Norton on the defensive line in a long time. A corner with size like Ephesians Prysock. Jacob Manu has a little bit of Scooby Wright in him, dare I say. Not that good, okay. But he's got a little bit of that, overlooked player coming out of high school for whatever reason. In his case, a little bit of size, but always knows where to go, and with incredible football IQ, just a terrific player. And then, Pat, on the running game, and we're going to get to the quarterback, and we're going to have some fun here because you and I disagree, so everybody stay tuned for that. I have not seen a player run like Jonah Coleman runs, and they make the comparisons to that former Jaguars running back. His name is in my mind right now, Maurice Jones-Drew, right?
Yeah.
God, that guy runs so hard and downhill, and he's taking it out on defenders. So you talk about, maybe he should have been the starting running back all along over Michael Bradley. He was good when he was in. But now you have that, and you've got the quarterback situation as well.
I said this midway through the game on Saturday night, watching them dismantle Washington State like they did. I said, a couple of weeks before, who would have thought that the season would actually turn on two injuries to two of the top players on the team, starters in Jaden DeLora and Michael Wiley. And you thought at the time, okay, they've got depth, they'll be able to overcome this. But in actuality, Jason, they've gotten better at both positions. We'll have the debate in a minute about Fafita and DeLora, but they've gotten better the last few weeks. And you hate to see injuries to starters who deserve to be starters. They did nothing wrong, but they're better now without Jaden DeLora, and they're better now without Michael Wiley. Not to say they don't want Michael Wiley back, that in a role, but Coleman is just fantastic. Wow,
he's a terrific player. All right, so let's get to the quarterback situation. Before we debate, we're going to hear from Jedd Fisch, who's now non-committal. So a week ago, Jedd Fisch went to going back to DeLora when he's healthy. Now he's not naming Fafita the quarterback, but he's like, no, I don't think we're going to change things. But, you saw DeLora hobble out to the field. So hint, hint, he may not be healthy in a couple weeks. Let's hear from Jedd Fisch on what the deal is with who the starting quarterback is.
Where we are and as a team where we've been, we're very fortunate. Two is better than none. So we have an ability to continue to grow in that position, grow in that quarterback room, and see how good both those guys can get.
Yeah. All right. So here's where we disagree, Pat. I would go back to Jaden DeLora for a couple of different reasons. Okay. So let me play them all out to you. Number one, this is a complete disruption, I think, if they go to Fafita. You're possibly ruining a relationship with Fisch and DeLora, who were supposed to be together for 3 years. Not that can't happen. Not that things don't change. But it's not like Fafita was passing the other team silly up and down the field, okay? Fafita was a game manager, a point guard, who what he did really well was just not make any mistakes, right? He wasn't doing anything that DeLora can't do. He was just limiting mistakes. I would go back to DeLora at this point, and I would only change quarterbacks if it's just really obvious that Fafita should be the guy, meaning DeLora plays himself out of the role when he goes back.
I don't know what you're talking about with disruption. See, to me, the disruption happened the minute that DeLora went down. Fafita comes in, and there was no disruption. So I really don't know what in the minds of those players right now. Their starting quarterback is Noah Fafita because they don't have Jaden DeLora. So to say that there's going to be a disruption, I think it would actually be more of a disruption now with a healthy Noah Fafita having led them to the win at Stanford, nearly beating Washington. Should have beat USC in the first overtime, and then you beat Washington State. You say that all he's doing is managing game. Well, that's great. They're managing the game, and they scored, what'd they score? 46? How many points did they score on Saturday?
44-6, they won.
Yeah. So he's managed the game terrific.
Well, you take out the 69
freshman of the week 2 weeks in a row with phenomenal numbers.
You take out the 69-yard pass, which wasn't to a receiver, it was to Jonah Coleman out of the backfield. Okay. And his average completion is 6 or 7 yards.
But Jason, remember, you gotta look at each game individually. Washington State's defense is built not to let you throw deep, so you have to pick, and you have to West Coast offense at the little passes. So you're gonna say that game counts, but the ones the week before and the week before that where he's throwing long passes, those don't count. Of course they do. He does what he has to do to manage the game against the defense and what the defense is giving him. That's why he's a better quarterback than Jaden DeLora. Jaden DeLora's upside is here, and Noah Fafita's is here, but Jaden DeLora's downside is here, and Noah Fafita's downside is here. I'm going to take Noah Fafita every time.
Okay, well, you just said it. DeLora has a little bit more of an upside.
Don't forget, the downside cancels that out to me.
DeLora can escape and get out of the pocket and run in a way that Fafita can't do. I think Fafita is terrific in the role that he is in. You make him the starting quarterback. And remember, you give teams now a few games of film on him. It's a little bit different. Oh, we got a comment here. Sorry, I missed. Let me get to the comment section here. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. Andrew thinks that number 11 should be the starter. No question.
Yeah, because Andrew, that's great. But everybody loves the backup quarterback, okay? If
He's not the
Afia
backup.
started
He's
the
the
year
starter. He's
and
been the
got
starter
hurt
for
and
3
Delora
weeks
came
now.
in and won a game,
Yep.
everybody would be screaming for Delora. Everybody loves the backup
That's if
quarterback.
Noah Fafita was a starter and he struggled at times and threw 4 interceptions and a half against Mississippi State and struggled at Stanford and ran backwards 30 yards, all that.
I agree with that. And if Delora limits those mistakes and doesn't run backwards and gets the ball out and does the things that Fafita does, and then adds his athleticism and what makes him great, then Delora's your guy. This is a guy who's
Delora
you just
has
talk about
had
Fafita's the Pac-12 freshman of the week 2 weeks in a row. Jaden
right.
Delora was the Pac-12 freshman of the year with
Yeah.
Washington State. He put up numerous games of huge numbers.
And we didn't see that. We didn't see that consistently enough. In fact, we saw enough bad where we look at Fafita and go, well, he's better. Fafita's better.
This offense last year with Delora was one of the top in the country. What were they like?
Guess what, Jason? Last year they finished with 30.8 points per game. They ranked number 48 in the country. Right now, they're averaging a point more, 31.9, so a little over a point more a game, and they're 46 in the country. So with basically 3+ games.
So with that, Pat, that means it's not clear cut. And if it's not clear cut,
right.
I'm not making a change.
It's not clear cut in a points battle. It's pretty much the same. But I'm telling you, that offense looks a heck of a lot better and a heck of a lot more potent right now with Noah Fafita. His decision-making ability is superior to Jaden Delora. And
Pat, and I've told you this before, we saw it the first time he stepped on campus. That spring game, not in 23 and 22, he stepped into the spring game, and I think Gunnar Cruz was maybe still there or whatever. There were a couple of quarterbacks who like dropping back, and they're like, undecisive. He steps back, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
But
he looks like a coach's son.
That was a spring game.
Yeah, spring game.
Actual games. He is Mr. I don't know where I'm going with the football. I can't see the field very well.
No. I'm talking about Fafita's. I'm complimenting him, and his decision making has been spot on.
Oh, you're talking about Fafita's decision making was spot on. Yeah. Without question.
Yeah,
and I think that's what separates the two. I don't think anybody who can watch the game, can say, "Oh, I don't see a difference between the two quarterbacks and their decisive abilities or their decision making abilities." Clearly, it's Fafita, and I think that's why he should continue to be the starter. To me, it's a no-brainer. I thought it was very interesting that last week, as they were preparing for Washington State, the Washington State coach even said, "Well, I would start I would start Fafita. We're going to."
Yeah, you don't know what his agenda is.
But Fafita's the guy that would be the quarterback you'd be worried about, and that's the quarterback they
he knew Fafita was going to start, and
I don't know that. No, how would he know that? How would he know that? Nobody knows that.
Based on how Delora's ankle looks, if there was a game this Saturday, I don't think Delora would be ready. And Fish even hinted at that when he talked about Delora.
I think it's
going
very
back.
Convenient. It's very convenient that he just keeps not being ready. We'll see. He's going to have to make a decision at some point, and I hope he makes the right one.
All right, listen. It's a big deal if you leave Delora this fast. I mean, this was supposed to be a 3-year relationship. He was supposed to be the starter for 3 years. I know a lot of stuff happens, but you got to be real sure.
Nobody.
Look at what happened with Khalil Tate. He's got 3 great games. Everybody wanted to put him on Sports Illustrated magazine and
he
put
was
him in the Heisman Trophy.
And he was the Heisman hopeful, Heisman favorite early before in the season before it even started.
Yeah.
So
and Khalil Tate had 3 incredible games, and after that, he wasn't. He wasn't the same Khalil Tate. You don't know what's going to happen when a couple teams get game film on him.
Well,
I just think people are overreacting a little bit too much.
Washington had game film against Stanford a little bit. USC had game film against Washington. Washington State had game film against USC, Washington a little bit against Stanford. There's plenty of game film out there. There are too many. The great thing about this argument is this offense is so potent with a terrific running back and great offensive line to block and great pass blocking ability and great wide receivers and a great tight end. This offense is a real problem for Pac-12 defenses to cover. That's the great thing about it. But we want to see this be more consistent, and we've seen it more consistent with Noah Fafita.
Yeah, it's tough almost to get Keon Burnett on the field because Tanner McLaughlin is so good with his blocking and his pass catching.
Yeah.
He's the other Servite player along with
Mhm.
T-Mac, Noah Fafita, and Jacob Manu. I believe Keon Burnett also went to Servite, and he's the tight end. He's a sophomore this year, or maybe a redshirt freshman if he didn't play that much last year. But
Let me
they've been
throw
having
this
trouble
at
getting
you.
him on the field. I know they've got high hopes for him for the next couple of years, so I hope he sticks around.
Let
But
me
yeah,
throw this at you too, because you just said it. You hope they stick around. It's the last few weeks. Every time I think about what are they going to do with quarterback, I keep thinking, that's the situation that a Jed Fish is now under with the transfer portal. One of these guys could leave easily next year because Jaden Delores still has one more year. Fafita has 3 more years.
yeah.
With one of them could leave, and so you have to be very careful about that too. And you've also got a wide receiver in Tedero McMillan, who's best buddies, roommates, longtime teammates, and with Fafita. There's a lot of egos, and there's a lot of hand holding, and it's got to go on when you make big decisions like this.
This is the toughest spot that Jed Fish, I think, has been in.
Clearly, yeah, I agree.
You sometimes dealing with success, there could be a little challenge with that, in addition to dealing with some of the things that he did. So we'll see. They've got the bye week, and then they go to Oregon State. And Fish hinted that Delora wasn't going to be ready for Oregon State. And I tell you what, Pat, Noah Fafita goes out and beats Oregon State and plays like this again, I'll be right there with you. I'm not there yet. I'm not there
Well,
yet.
you need 4 games in a row instead of 3 games in a row. Okay.
Well, and win those 2 games.
Jason.
They got to win.
Teams.
He didn't make the play. He didn't make Pat Fafita didn't make a good throw in the 2-point conversion at the end of USC.
He was under pressure. He was under pressure.
Well, sometimes you can escape and make a play.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. He's been a game manager. He hasn't been a game-winning, game-breaking quarterback. If he had been throwing the ball up and down the field 300 yards, making incredible plays, I'd say, yeah, Fafita's the guy. It's a no-brainer. I just think we got a little bit of an overreaction right now. I would go back to Delora until he either plays himself out of the position, or it's just more obvious than what it is now that Fafita should be the guy.
I think it's very obvious, and I think there's a lot of Wildcat fans that think it's obvious, and it's not just based on a Khalil Tate kind of thing. You can tell when a guy is a poised quarterback.
I wanted Tate to be the quarterback that year and not was it Dawkins who started? I forget who started. I think it was Dawkins, Brandon Dawkins, if I'm not remembering.
Yep.
And when that year when Rich Rod was asked, well, why wasn't Tate the starter at the beginning of the year? His response was, well, that's a pretty good question. He should have made it. Sometimes a coach is hesitant to make a move like that, and I get it. So
well, a lot of times they're just too close to it, Jason. You know what I mean? You're too close to a player.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think this first couple of weeks with Jaden Delora, I get it, but now it's going to have to be. You've got to step back. And you've got to be very, you got to really dissect it, and you've got to be very objective. You can't be, with your heart. You really got to, as a head coach. And I know that Wildcat fans, and me included, we think with our heart sometimes. But I try to step back in situations like this. Which guy gives you a better chance? I think it's Fafita. You think it's Delora.
Well, Brett and Carroll and Jimmy Doherty should have a lot of say in this. And if they both feel really strongly, then Delora can absolve himself. I'm sorry, Fish can absolve himself of the situation and just be like, listen, man, I love you, but the coaching staff wants to go with Ryan Fafita with another game. So we'll see. All right. While we still have time, I want to bring up Pat the Arizona Coyotes, and we're bringing them up for a couple reasons. One, actually, it's kind of exciting. I do see this team on the rise a little bit. I think they're a team that's going to fight for a playoff spot this season and kind of be right around that 8th spot. But also, full disclosure, we work for KGUN 9, which is owned by EW Scripts, and we're airing the Coyotes games this year on LAF TV 9.2. As well as today's game. If you're watching us live here on the Huddle, it's going to be in about 40 minutes on CW Tucson. And so they're kind of exciting. I missed the game yesterday. I had a story I was on. I saw some of the game against the Devils. I do think that Logan Cooley has 3 assists, if I'm not mistaken, through 2 games. He's their first-round draft pick. And they look good. I know they lost to the Rangers yesterday, but they've looked good. They're 1-1. It's hard to start out on the coast to start the season. You don't see that real often, but they're at the Islanders here today at 4:00.
Yeah, and they have 4 games to start on the road and on the East Coast. It's a real tough way to start the schedule. They survive this somehow. Maybe get another win. Get 2.
You split 2 of the 4. I'll take it.
Yeah, I would too. And then you're talking about, okay, we withstood, we've got, four of our 82 games done already, and then we don't have to go to the East Coast again, that kind of thing. Then you can get back home and get back to that tiny little arena up in Tempe and take advantage of your huge home ice advantage, and they'll do that. And you're right, Jason. We had Matt McConnell, the play-by-play guy, on last week here on the Huddle, and he was talking about the additions of some of these guys that they got in the offseason, the young talent. Of course, we've got young talent here with the Tucson Roadrunners, and that this team is maybe poised to battle for one of the last playoff spots. It's a tough thing to do. It doesn't happen overnight, and we've talked about it. Maybe more than any other sport, it takes a little bit longer for the teams that are rebuilding to get into the playoffs. Then you start moving up. But this franchise is so overdue, and we're hoping that we'll be able to kind of ride the coattails with now having this Arizona Coyotes team on our air, and also having the Tucson Roadrunners here. It's a great synergy. It's great to have this kind of bond with a team in Phoenix and the team here in Tucson.
Dylan Gunther, one of the other top draft picks, is starting the year with the Roadrunners. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how he does and how long he's here with the Roadrunners. And certainly we're watching Mike Carcone, who led the American Hockey League in scoring last year for the Roadrunners, and we'll see how he does. Earned himself a one-way contract, so he's up there with the Coyotes. So it's interesting to follow the players as they go up and down. And it's funny for those who don't know, and Pat, correct me, I believe in baseball, teams can only send their players up and down so many times, right? The union,
I don't know they may have changed it since I was doing baseball.
Yeah, the union and all the rules and everything. Right. You can't really send guys up and down. In ice hockey, these guys go up and down Tucson to the Coyotes left and right.
Yeah. It's called options in baseball, where you've only got so many options, and then
right.
Team either has to keep you or they have to put you on waivers and see if you make it through waivers before they reassign you. Yeah. But
Connor Ingram actually made a fantastic save right before he let in that power play goal, which was deflected by somebody's uniform right in front. There was nothing he could do. Unfortunately, Pat, I missed that game. I was on a story last night, so I missed that, and I missed the Diamondbacks Phillies game. So you can update people on the Diamondbacks finally had their first loss. I'm afraid. It looked like Gallen maybe didn't have his best stuff, and he's given up 2 home runs in the first 3 batters.
And sometimes, Jason, you get a team another team that's hot in the Phillies, and then it is Philadelphia right now. The last season and this season, it's that playoff atmosphere is just remarkable. And I think that if you don't quite have your best stuff and you think you do, and you go out there and you try to challenge Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, bad things can happen. And what you don't want to do tonight for the Diamondbacks, if you're watching us live, what you don't want to do in Game 2 tonight for the Diamondbacks, you can't get down early. In fact, you've got to score early and kind of get that crowd. If you notice in the middle innings, once the Diamondbacks got the home run and all of a sudden it was 5-2, then it was 5-3, it got quiet there. And that's what you want early on. And you want to kind of to temper that crowd's enthusiasm.
Well, in any road game, you want to stabilize it with when there's a big time atmosphere. So that makes sense. So we'll see if the Diamondbacks can split here. A lot of times people say, though, those series don't really start until a road team wins. Another school of thought is, Game 2 often is can be a turning point game. But we've seen so many different series where it goes this way and that way. But one thing for sure is that series can turn. And when every game is so different than the next because of the starting pitchers in baseball.
A starter. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, we'll be back next week, and we'll talk more of the same. And Arizona football will get ready for Oregon
by then too, because the Wildcat basketball team will have played an exhibition game already. By next week, we'll talk maybe a little about that.
Yeah, I didn't check. I should have checked. Is that game on TV?
It's streaming. They're going to stream it.
Okay.
The Pac-12 is pretty much just given up. The Pac-12 network is just.
Well, they're in a tough spot. I feel bad for some of those people.
I agree, but it's more the demise of the Pac-12, and it's really a shame. And it's things like that. We didn't see the red-blue game telecast. We're not seeing an exhibition game telecast, but it will be streamed if you don't have tickets to go.
All right, terrific. All right. So we'll see you right back here, same time next week. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle, KGUN9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you every week at this time, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.